So this democratic process, this democratic primary took a very long time. There are babies, and I just met one, who have been born during this campaign. There are many who are now walking and talking since we announced for the presidency. And when I first announced, there were a number of people who said, why are you running this time? Why are you running so soon? You are a relatively young man, you can afford to wait. And I told them that I wasn't running because I thought it was my turn or because I thought it was somehow owed to me, but rather I was running because of what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now. The fierce urgency of now, because I believe there's such a thing as being too late, and that hour is almost upon us. And if you have any doubt, then travel around the country the way I have for the last 15 months. And the stories you will hear from mothers who have lost sons or daughters in the war in Iraq, or families that can't provide health care for themselves and their children, or workers who've lost their jobs after 20 or 30 years at the same plant. And when they lose their job, they don't just lose a job, but they lose their health care, they lose their pension, and they lose their sense of place and their sense of dignity. You talk to young people who have the grades and the will to go to college, but just don't have the money. And you realize that we are at a defining moment in our history. People understand that America remains the greatest country on earth, but they also know that unless we make some fundamental changes right now, both domestically and in our international relations, that the American dream may slip away for an awful lot of us. And that's unacceptable. There's something fundamentally un-American about that. And that's why I chose not to wait. I chose not to wait because we have to reform our healthcare system now. I chose not to wait because we have to make college affordable now. I chose not to wait because we have to create an energy policy that can stop global warming now, and that can free ourselves from our addiction to foreign oil now. And I decided to run now because we have to end the Iraq War now. But I also decided to run because I placed a bet on you, the American people. I was asked by Brian Williams, or I guess it was Charlie Gibson tonight, did you ever imagine being as the Democratic nominee? And I said, well, yes, I wouldn't have run if I didn't. But what underscored that confidence was not cockiness on my part, rather it was a confidence in the American people. Because I was convinced that the American people wanted a different kind of politics. They wanted politics that was not about tearing each other down, but was about lifting the country up. They wanted a politics that was not about spin and PR, but was about facts and reason and civil debate and honesty between elected officials and their constituents. And most of all, I was convinced that the American people were tired of being divided and distracted. And what they wanted was a politics that would focus not merely on our differences, but also what binds us together as a people. Those common hopes and those common dreams. And so last night was a culmination of a lot of work, but it was also a vindication of that faith that I placed in you. And when I stood there with 17,000 people in St. Paul, Minnesota, what was palpable was that sense that we have this opportunity now, here, to create the kind of America that all of us hope for. Not an America that's perfect, not an America in which racism or sexism is entirely banished, not an America in which people aren't going to get sick and struggle, not an America in which businesses close and people lose their jobs sometimes. You know, those are part of the price we pay for a dynamic and free society. but the sense that if we worked at it, we can create a healthcare system that is at least as good as what the French have, at least as good as what other advanced countries have, where we actually are spending less money and getting better quality, and our businesses are not burdened with this incredibly expensive health insurance system, and that we don't have people going to the emergency room for treatable illnesses like asthma. That if we work together, yes, we're going to have to compete in this global economy, but we can make sure that every child is equipped and prepared to get through high school and go to college so that they can get the high-skilled jobs that will provide a living wage, that we can invest in our infrastructure. You know, if China can build high-speed rail, surely America can build high-speed rail. If South Korea has broadband lines that are 10 or 15 times as fast as ours, since we invented the thing, that's an investment that we can make. We may not be able to completely eradicate the hatred and extremism in the Middle East, but surely we can have an intelligent foreign policy that uses diplomacy first and not last, and recognizes that we have to use our military wisely, and is not distracted from the very real enemies we have in Afghanistan and parts of Pakistan and Al-Qaeda, because we have embarked on a war that I believe should have never been authorized and should have never been waged. And surely we can lead on eradicating genocide and making sure that we're a force for public health infrastructure around the world, and educating kids in math and science instead of hatred of Americans. I mean, those are steps that we can take. It doesn't require radical changes in America. It just requires some common sense. It requires some pragmatism, some practicality. It requires that we roll up our sleeves and do a little bit of work on behalf of not just this generation, but the next. That's what people are looking for. And the good news is the American people are a common sense people. And we're a practical people. And we're not a particularly ideological people. And that's why people are so frustrated with our politics, because they see this huge gulf between the arguments in Washington and what they know to be true in their own day-to-day lives. So my bet's paid off. And I'm now the Democratic nominee. And,
yeah!